Welcome back to Watch the Booker Man and to episode number 82 of Paul Heyman's TNA. And Impact begins with a look back at last week's show, that major segment that ended Impact, Kurt Angle being interrupted by the New Age, making it clear that they wanted the World Heavyweight Championship from him. As the New Age attacked Kurt Angle, the champion found an unlikely saviour in the form of his long-term rival, the returning Bobby Lashley. Back in January, Lashley was taken out by the New Age and had his arm broken. He's not been seen since then. Black, Hero and Castagnoli were responsible for that, so he came back and he sent them packing. The show ending with Lashley standing tall, helping the World Heavyweight Champion to his feet. The commentators put this over to open the show and confirmed that the New Age, Bobby Lashley and Kurt Angle are all in the building tonight. And what's more, we're going to kick off the show with the entrance of the New Age. The 4 male members of that group make their way down to the ring, with Jimmy Jacobs addressing events from last week's show. He says that Bobby Lashley may have cleared the ring all by himself, but that was about living to fight another day. If they wanted to, they could have gone back at Bobby Lashley and took him down. The New Age don't care about losing one fight because they always end up on top in the end. If Bobby Lashley thinks he can beat all 3 of them without blindsiding them, then now is his chance. They're not going to run away. They are ready to fight him. Coming out from the back, Bobby Lashley looks to do just that. He's never going to back down from a challenge, but he does, understandably, struggle against the trio, who have clearly strategized for this. They've had 7 days to plan for what to do should it come to this. As the one-sided fight continues, Kurt Angle runs down to the ring. He's wisely brought a steel chair with him, and he returns the favour from last week, helping to clear the ring of the New Age. Lashley doesn't need help back to his feet as Kurt Angle did last week, with the New Age now watching on from the sidelines, backing up the ramp once again. Kurt Angle tells Bobby Lashley that they need to talk, but they decide that it's probably best done in private as they try and get a clearer picture of what appears to be a new dynamic forming between them, advancing the storyline. Unfortunately, the commentators and Jimmy Jacobs not doing well, but Tyler Black and Kurt Angle getting green notes, and we do get the crowd hotter with this segment, so no complaints there. We then go into the opener where Kevin Steen defeats Amazing Red, albeit by countout. As he tried to do a couple of weeks ago, he rolls Amazing Red to the apron, hits him with a package pile driver. Amazing Red goes completely limp and his body drops to the outside. Kevin Steen could easily throw him back in the ring and get the pinfall, but for some reason it just doesn't seem to matter to him. All that Kevin Steen seems interested in is picking up the victory, and perhaps even sees winning by countout and Amazing Red basically not being able to return to his feet as a more dominant win, advancing their storyline with a 63, a good opener, a decent match as described by the game, and Kevin Steen remains in the ring following his win as Amazing Red is checked on at ringside by the medics. Clearly a package pile driver on the apron isn't a move that you just get up from, and we see that there is some serious concern about Red. Steen, unsurprisingly, shows no concern as Amazing Red is helped to the back by those medics. Taking the microphone from ringside, Kevin Steen points to Amazing Red as he is helped away, and he says that Red asked for this, but this was a warning to the rest of the roster. He could have rolled Red back into the ring and pinned him 1, 2, 3, but the fact is that he didn't need to. The point Steen was making tonight is that he doesn't care how he wins. All that matters is that he beats you until you cannot keep fighting. So further developing his persona as somebody who just wants to get out there and beat people up. And it's a 62 rating, improvising well. So again, another segment that I'm happy with. We then get an interview with Tara in the back. She's told SoCal Val that she has a huge announcement that she wants to share with the world, but SoCal Val doesn't know what it is. Tara grabs the microphone from Val and says that she has spoken to Paul Heyman and she has officially invoked the automatic rematch clause in their contracts. Mickie James and Tara will face the Beautiful People, their rematch for the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. She says that Mickie James claims that she really did care about their team, their friendship and their titles. Well, this is her chance to prove it. Cutting Tara off, Mickie storms onto the interview set, having obviously heard this nonsense. She asks if this is a joke to Tara, but Tara says she is deadly serious. This Saturday night on Evolve, they take their titles back. Of course, there's an insincerity to Tara's tone that comes through, and this quickly provokes Mickie James. The two start fighting and have to be pulled apart in the back as Tara is led away. She says that it's in writing, it's an automatic rematch clause, and she's invoked it. so she'll see Mickie James on Saturday night. So I suppose, put simply, this is some mind games from Tara. Mischief then defeats Brooke in 4 minutes and 10 seconds with a leg trap sunset bomb. Brooke is joined by ODB at ringside, Mischief by her new partner Daisy Hayes, and it's a poor match as I expected, but a win for Mischief. We want to continue to build her up. Hayes joins Mischief in the ring. She shows much more enthusiasm than Mischief herself does for the win. Hayes' positivity does seem to start to rub off on her new partner, however, as she does crack a little smile and appears to be warming to the woman who has replaced the injured Alyssa Flash. So a blossoming friendship, hopefully, between these two. We then get a video package of the challenge that AJ Styles made to Austin Aries last week on Evolve, before a response promo from the ROH World Champion from his home. Aries first makes it clear that he wasn't welcome at Impact again tonight, but they did send him a camera to give AJ Styles his answer. TNA want him to defend his title on their show, but they won't even let him in the building. See, that doesn't work for Austin Aries. Therefore, if AJ Styles and TNA want an answer to this challenge, then they can open the doors to him for this Saturday at Evolve. Aries adds that he is willing to play by Paul Heyman's rules just this once, but if he does get to the building and they turn him away, then things aren't going to end well for TNA. So he's willing to do this the easy way, but the threat is definitely there that him and his backup won't take another snub lying down. Back to ringside, James Mitchell leads the Monster Abyss down to the ring, and he speaks about Bryan Danielson's hollow victory over his son at Lockdown, and says that if there's one thing he can respect about Bryan, it's his reaction to how that went down. He knows that he didn't really beat Abyss. However, having to have somebody come and rescue you from the grasps of the monster, that's something that will haunt and emasculate Bryan for the rest of his life, just like Jay Lethal, who Abyss will beat again tonight, and just like many men before him, Bryan flew too close to the sun. If Danielson has any sense, from this point forth, he will stay as far away from Abyss as humanly possible. Mitchell is sure that Bryan Danielson is an intelligent man, so he doesn't expect that they'll hear from him again. Improvising well in a solid segment despite it losing heat to that storyline, and we then get a really good match. Happy with that. Abyss handing Jay Lethal another defeat. His momentum is absolutely in the gutter at the moment, and a chokeslam, a decisive victory for Abyss. The crowd buzzing though, so a very good match, and 9 minutes isn't too bad of a showing, as Abyss is joined by James Mitchell in standing over Jay Lethal in the ring. Bryan Danielson appears on the screen. The American Dragon is sat in a dark room which is lit only by a single light bulb. Bryan says that this has nothing to do with Jay Lethal or anything to do with Desmond Wolfe. This is about him and Abyss. We can see that the events of Lockdown are still playing on his mind, and he says there is nothing that is going to stop him from stepping in the ring with the monster once again. A buzz is then heard off screen. Danielson lifts his arm up and we see he has some hair clippers before he begins to shave his head. He tells Abyss he is done playing nicely in TNA. He then shaves his head before making the challenge. He wants to make the ultimate sacrifice before sacrifice, 24 hours, no food, no drink, no light. He wants to fight Abyss in a Monsters Ball match. So a very different, almost twisted demeanour from Bryan Danielson, which is going to develop his character going forward. But he does such a good job in this promo, superb without a script, the crowd in the palm of his hand, and gaining heat to their storyline. So an excellent job by Bryan Danielson, who challenges Abyss to a match at Sacrifice, the match that essentially started the downward spiral for Jay Lethal. But that does end the first hour of Impact, and we come back to what I'd say is a pretty poor match, but the Forefathers show much greater cohesion when defeating Sweet and Sour. That is Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, James Storm and Robert Roode, going over Kazuchika Okada, Yoshihashi, Nick Jackson and Matt Jackson. 8 minutes and 13, so everybody gets their chance to get a little bit of offense in, but definitely a dominant win for the Forefathers. Frankie Kazarian hitting the fade to black to Yoshihashi. Yoshihashi, who was the weak link in the match, but probably wasn't helped by the fact that he broke his fingers at some point. Kazarian off his game, which is annoying considering he got the decisive fall, still benefiting from that hot new move. Christopher Daniels then takes a microphone after the Forefathers pick up this win, and he's basically trying to temper the crowd's dislike of them, saying that he doesn't expect anybody to cheer them or to like them, but he wants them to know that they're all here for the same reason. Every person who bought a ticket, everybody watching at home, and all four men stood in this ring, they have one thing in common. They are willing to stand up and fight for TNA, especially when there's a bunch of outsiders slowly manoeuvring themselves to try and bring this company down. They heard AJ Styles' challenge to Austin Aries last week, and they heard Aries' response, and they're happy to pass on the message that the doors are open to ROH this Saturday on Evolve. They also want to know that they're welcome next week on Impact, because the Forefathers want to challenge ANX and the American Wolves to face them in a 8-man tag team match. The key being that it is no disqualifications, advancing the storyline, but not only letting us know that Aries will be at Evolve, but that they are also welcome next week at Impact. So a little bit of a change of strategy from TNA, whose previous idea was to just shut these guys out. We then cut to the back, and the losers of the previous match are shown to still be in that heated discussion. Nick and Matt Jackson are complaining to Larry Sweeney in front of the other two about Yoshihashi once again letting the side down. He doesn't have what it takes to be in sweet and sour. Quickly coming to the support of his friend, Okada gets in the face of the Young Bucks, with Larry Sweeney unsuccessfully trying to cool things down between them. Eventually, Sweeney asks Okada to come to one side, expressing his own concerns about Yoshihashi. Nick and Matt have a point. Okada nods his head, seemingly in agreement with his US-based agent, but then turns to Yoshihashi and says, "We're leaving." The two Japanese competitors then walk away, with Larry Sweeney in shock. Matt Jackson tells them not to come back until they're ready to apologise for letting them down. So further fractions within Sweet and Sour is not a great segment, but I am happy to advance something with some lower level guys. I always think you need to at least keep something going with them, because otherwise they're just jobbers without any personality and any gimmick. Low-Key is then interviewed by Jeremy Borash, who looks for a response to his impressive victory over Roderick Strong last week on Impact, having defeated a former champion. Low-Key admits that he has set his sights on the X Division Championship, and he'd be lying if he didn't want to share the ring with Tyler Black. He adds that he has a lot of time for Roderick Strong, but last week was business. Whichever one of them he goes on to face, he'd be happy to share a ring with, not only because they're incredible X Division athletes, but because he knows that he is on the next level. Whatever the result of Roderick Strong's rematch, he wants the next shot at the X Division Championship. Not a fantastic promo, but a straightforward segment really, as we go into the first match of the Beautiful People since they won the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. It's based on eye candy, just because I thought it'd get a much better rating. A 49 isn't great, so who knows how it would have gone anyway, but the Beautiful People quite easily defeat Boogie Nova and Christina Von Eerie, two local talents, in 4 minutes and 52. The makeover, the decisive move. We then get a impromptu episode of the Beautiful People show, with the Arrogant Champions making their previous opponents the surprise special guests. This is of course basically just taking the mick of the fact that both of these women are down and out on the canvas while the champions stand tall, and they viciously mock them. They ask what it's like to be beaten by the best tag team in the history of the Knockouts division, but of course they get no answer because they've just beaten them up. However, Hamada and Taylor Wilde come out from the back, and once in the ring, they say that since their guests don't have anything to say, maybe they're ready to talk to them. Before Taylor can say her piece, however, Angelina Love and Velvet Sky declare that the show is over, leaving the ring and heading to the back. Hamada and Taylor Wilde check on the two women down in the ring, but clearly they still have their sights set on the Knockouts Tag Team Championships after a controversial defeat in the number one contendership tournament final. We then get a promo from Sara Del Rey, and she's following up on last week where she complained that there was nobody left for her to beat in the Knockouts division. Well, it's been 7 days, and Paul Heyman hasn't given her any indication as to what's next regarding this title. She gets it though. Heyman has got a lot on his plate at the moment, so perhaps she can make a suggestion. Since this guy's trying to start crap with a new age, maybe she should fight Kurt Angle. They're both in the same boat, and she'd only be too happy to prove she is the best wrestler on this planet, man or woman. She's not sure that Kurt Angle has got the guts to step up to her, however. But in truth, she knows that Paul's not going to make that match either, but he is going to have to come up with something, and he's going to have to come up with it very, very soon. A really good promo from Sara Del Rey there. She can deliver it well, but she does need her promos scripted and advancing the storyline. Is she the queen of all knockouts? We'll have to see what Paul Heyman comes up with. Making his entrance for the main event, where he will face Matt Morgan. AJ Styles takes a microphone and confirms what Christopher Daniels said earlier. A really good promo from AJ Styles. Delighted with that. We needed a big segment here because I'm not 100% sure how well this main event's going to do, but he's saying that Team ROH and specifically Austin Aries have been given the green light to appear and evolve, and he can't wait to welcome them back to the company. Before Aries gives his answer, however, AJ wanted to come out here and explain why he wants the title. And it's not just about personal glory for him, as much as he knows the Ring of Honor World Championship is very prestigious. He says that this is about Austin Aries, and how he's been talking crap and talking down TNA for months. He says he's as good as anybody in this company, then prove it. Lethal Lockdown was an impressive display from the 5 of them, but he wants to raise the stakes at Sacrifice, and he wants it to be 1-on-1. If Aries really believes that Ring of Honor has been unfairly pushed aside, then why doesn't his title take centre stage live on pay-per-view, a pay-per-view that will be seen all around the world? With 48 hours until Aries' answer on Evolve, Styles must now turn his attention to Matt Morgan in the main event, but he does a great job going off script and gains heat to the storyline. Really delighted with that. It's not that good of a main event, to be honest, but AJ Styles picks up a win over Matt Morgan. Morgan doesn't have Anderson with him now, and this is just a little bit of closure of the storyline where Morgan and Mr. Anderson were basically belittling AJ Styles and Jerry Lynn. With Anderson still nursing injuries from lockdown, this was a good chance to get a clean, fair match between them, and I've not really got a great deal for Matt Morgan at the minute. I've never really had much for him. I know he's a big guy, I know he's very athletic, I do really like him, but in terms of being on that level with the very best wrestlers in the company, I do feel like we've passed him by a little bit with the signings we've made. He was very, very good at the start of 2010. He was probably what you'd call an upper mid-carder, but by now so many great guys have come in that he has kind of got lost in the shuffle, and we wanted to give AJ Styles a big decisive victory over Matt Morgan. They faced previously, it ended in DQs, or it ended in Jerry Lynn getting pinned by Mr. Anderson in a tag team match, so we never really got the closure between these two, and that's what we get. AJ Styles standing tall in the ring following his win, getting some vindication for that unfinished business. Anderson out of action, like I've already said. Styles had proved his point to Morgan now, but will turn his attention to Austin Aries and the Ring of Honor World Championship. The commentators promote this upcoming episode of TNA Evolve this Saturday night on MTV. Austin Aries and his Team ROH teammates will appear on that show, with the world champion of Ring of Honor giving his answer to AJ Styles' challenge to him. A solid way to end the show, and that promo from AJ Styles ensures the 86 rated one, ensures we get a good rating, a solid rating at least. Not one of the best shows we've ever done, but good nonetheless. It's a 76 rating, and we're hoping to, I don't think we're going to match that with Evolve, to be fair, given I know what the match card is, but I want to go straight into that because we want to see the answer from Austin Aries, as well as everything else we have on another really good episode coming up of TNA Evolve. And the show begins with an interview with Mickie James speaking to Christy Hem, and she's just commenting on the ridiculousness of the situation that she finds herself in. She will team tonight with Tara, despite what's happened in the last couple of weeks, because that automatic rematch clause was invoked, and she is contracted to do this, so she will fight tonight, no matter how certain she is that this is going to end in disaster for her. She'll go out there and she will fight, because it is all she knows how to do. We then go into a solid opening match, good wrestling and decent reaction. Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team, who we haven't seen for a couple of weeks, defeat the former number one contenders Colt Cabana and El Generico. Charlie Haas pinning El Generico following a German suplex. Shelton Benjamin absolutely incredible there. We've not utilised him quite as much as we should have done. Definitely something I'm going to keep in mind given these performances he can pull out of the bag, getting the crowd buzzing. A good way to start the show, and Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas celebrate their win in the ring. We then come back from the break and the Forefathers come out and they look for an answer from the challenge for ANX and American Wolves they laid down on Thursday for next week's Impact. They've not heard anything from them, but they know that Team ROH are in the building. Instead of coming out, Team ROH appear on the screen and accept the challenge. They'll be there on Thursday, but they're not going to come out tonight and start fighting with anybody because they want to embarrass them on the show that they made their name on, and that'll be Thursday night on Spike TV, TNA Impact. This is more or less what you expect from a Forefathers segment, low to mid 60s. That's the role that they're in. Tara is then interviewed just before the Knockouts Tag Team Championship match, and she plays it completely straight. She doesn't know why Mickey refused to have a shared interview, considering they're both challenging for the titles tonight, but she makes it clear they want their titles back. So the sarcasm and the glibness that we saw from Tara on Thursday continuing as she improvises well in a really good promo, gaining heat back to the storyline. I did actually think about putting this next match as the main event, but then I thought, based on the ratings that I've seen from the Beautiful People and the fact that it's a storytelling match and not an eye candy match, I didn't think it'd be quite good enough to main event the show. So it is here now, the second match on the card, the Knockouts Tag Team Championships match, and as expected, the Beautiful People win, with the story of the match being that Tara, as we see limited involvement, refuses to tag in. She eventually drops off the apron, sort of is halfway up the ramp, and is just laughing and enjoying the fact that despite being in this bizarre situation, Mickie James continues to fight and still tries to win. It's her instinct as a knockout to just keep fighting, even though the outcome would be her and Tara having belts and the mess that would come with that. Nonetheless, as it is essentially a handicap match, the Beautiful People do eventually pin Mickie James following a makeover, the first defense of their Knockouts Tag Team titles. Good performance, well, decent performances, not actually that good even from Mickie James here, but we did keep her strong in the booking. Hurt because of Tara not having much involvement. Probably I shouldn't have even put her as the limited involvement because it was the story of the match and it was essentially a handicap match. So average rating as the Beautiful People celebrate in the ring. Tara smirking before leaving Mickie. The question from the commentators era, what was Tara trying to gain from this? It didn't really serve either of them, but it's just about humiliation for Mickie James, and I suppose in a sense she was successful in that regard. We then come back to the main event, and it's a really good match. Paul London's individual performances made me confident to put this in the main event with what I think will be a very good final rated segment. I think we're going to be okay with this show overall now, but London picking up a victory as he embarks on his singles run with Brian Kendrick out injured, a shooting star press to Sonjay Dutt, who puts in a decent performance, but Paul London showing why he's going to be a massive asset to the X Division going forward, and he celebrates a singles victory in the ring. We then come back to the final segment of the show, and that's not anywhere nearly as good as I'd hoped, to be fair. Paul Heyman doing well. I'm sure AJ held his own, but Austin Aries letting us down without a script there. AJ Styles comes down to the ring. Paul Heyman is already in there as we come back from the break, and AJ wants his answer from Austin Aries. And Aries actually is a little bit evasive here. He says that he would be happy to defend the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship, and he'd be more than happy to headline Sacrifice and show the world what Ring of Honor and himself have to offer. But AJ Styles hasn't earned it. What makes him think that he can just make this challenge and all of a sudden he's the number one contender? He rejects the challenge from AJ Styles. He will not be defending his championship at Sacrifice, and he leaves the ring heading up the ramp. Not the answer or the outcome that Paul Heyman or AJ Styles would have wanted, but it's still a decent overall show, gaining popularity in 2, losing it in 2. Of course, we'd prefer not to lose any popularity, but a 73 is okay for what was a bit of a all over the place show. But I'm delighted that on the wrestling show, Paul London was able to get a main event match in there and not fluff his lines. He definitely put in a performance showing that he was worthy of that position. Last week was about the fallout from lockdown. We're really starting to zone in now on the upcoming pay-per-view Sacrifice, albeit it looks like we won't be having a Ring of Honor World Championship match as things stand. Jeff Jarrett giving some praise to Colt Cabana, which is good. They were defeated tonight, but I don't think there's any shame in losing to wrestling's greatest tag team. Nick Jackson getting a little bit of criticism from Chris Hero, who is very, very opinionated in the back. Broken fingers for Yoshihashi, so we'll probably just keep him out of the ring for a while. I've just checked how that'd be in the medical screen. It's only going to be 6 days, so we will be back in time for next week's Impact. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back next week with another episode. Actually, I'm going away this week, so it might be another 2 weeks, unfortunately. Hopefully not.